Hey, everybody. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Angela. I am a full-time voiceover artist and audiobook narrator, and this is a live Q&A. So if you are thinking about dabbling into voiceover or getting started in voiceover and have questions, please type them into the chat and I will be happy to answer them. Let's see. Make sure everything looks like the mic, everything is working. I'm still kind of a newbie to this, so just let me know if you can see and hear me okay. It looks like I'm on, so I don't know if anybody can hear me, but anywho. It looks like looking at the poll here, do you use an XLR mic or a USB mic? It looks like most of you are using an XLR mic. Awesome. Cool. All right, so we have Sammy. It has both, but I usually use USB. So you have both mics, but you use a USB more often? I think that's what you mean. That's interesting. Why is that? Do you get a better sound from your USB mic? Or is it just ease of use? That would be interesting to know. But for any of you interested for the results of Team C's, let's see where we ended up. I haven't checked yet this morning. So it looks like our goal was 60. No, it's actually, we got 30 million pounds of trash removed from our waterways. So that is fabulous. That is absolutely fabulous. All right. Let's go back over here. Okay, thank you, Sammy, for letting me know that you can hear me okay. Because I never know, because what I'm looking at is a picture of me buffering, so I don't know if it works or not. Okay, so we have some questions coming in. Let's see. Disport Reviews. Hey, Angela. Just wanted to let you know that your video talking about EQ led me to Tim Tibbetts. I grabbed his course and have had multiple sessions with him. Thank you for that. He is an amazing guy. I love Tim. He is super helpful and he's committed. You know, once you engage with him and you take his course and you start to learn more about Adobe Audition in particular, and you engage him to help you create racks or EQs or anything, he will not stop until it's right. So he is fabulous. I'm so glad that you hooked up with him. He is a really, really good person and a fabulous audio engineer and a fabulous voiceover artist. Let's see. We got Storyteller Schlock. Hi, ma'am. Well, hello. Thank you for joining me today. Okay, Sammy says it's an MV7 and it has USB and XLR. I gotcha. But for ease of use, still a novice, I use USB. Yeah, that is the Shure, right? The Shure MV7. And it does come with either or. Some of the models come with either or. Is it because you don't have a interface? Is that why you use the USB? I would imagine that is why. But it's nice to have both connections so you can use either or. Fabulous. Okay, let's see. Storyteller Schlock says, I have a Rode NT1A. That is what I started out with. Actually, before that, when I very first started, I started out with a Blue Yeti USB mic. And then big car outside, or a big engine, I should say. And then when I first upgraded, I upgraded to the Rode NT1A, and it was awesome. But then I think shortly after that, I got the bug for new gear. And so I decided to get the Sennheiser, and I've had this one for probably a good year and a half, if not 2 years now. Fabulous mic. Ma Candy VO. I like that. Hey, yeah, Angela, I've got a question. If you've got the time. I've got the time. That's what I'm here for. I'm very novice making the transition from Procrastalearner to Fiverr. How could someone who's broke find affordable coaching or lessons and or feedback? Well, I do have, I guess it depends on what you would call affordable because, and I say that because YouTube is absolutely free. If you're looking for feedback or just kind of learning things as you go through other people, you can join my Facebook group, the VO Workshop. I've got, or you have got, lots of other Facebook group options as well. There's a VO's Journey. There's subscribe to the Booth Junkie. Tim Tippett has his own YouTube channel, VO Tech Guru. I know he doesn't have a whole lot of how-tos, but he has some that are very informational if you have Adobe Audition. If also on my website, I also have a what I call a premium membership. Everybody on my website gets a free membership, but if you want to upgrade to the platinum rather, not premium, platinum membership, I have we have weekly group meetings where we get together once a week and for about an hour, hour and a half sometimes, and just talk about successes and failures and questions. And I give tutorials on things and we go over scripts and things like that. So, and that is currently $20 a month. So if you want to do that, but if you want like real coaching, I'm actually a coach. I just started with a VO's Journey. He has an academy. And I'd have to double check exactly how much it is right now, but there, for a relatively low monthly fee, you can join the academy and you get coaching every day of the work week. So I think there are 5 of us now, 5 coaches, one every day of the week. And we talk about different aspects of voiceover. And I have that link in the description if you want to check out the VO's Journey Academy, if I can speak today. But that is definitely a good place to check out too. But YouTube is just a wealth of knowledge these days. Just about anything you would ever want to learn is on YouTube. So that's where I would definitely start as YouTube. But check out our Facebook group too if you like. The the VO Workshop. I need more coffee apparently. Okay, Disport Review says, have you done any vocal coaching? If so, how did it help you? You know, I had a coach for about a year. Anthony Pica was my coach. And he did work with me. I had a few things that, bad habits that I was stuck in, and he helped me to get out of those. But, and taught me quite a bit about the business and how to market myself and just about everything that I could ever need in terms of coaching. But when you say vocal coaching, are you referring to my actual speech or how I project or something like that? I'm just wanted clarification on what your question is so I can properly answer it for you. But I did have a coach for about a year. Health, then wealth. I didn't know how to use the interface and wasn't sure of it, so I got an XLR. So are you saying that you have an XLR mic and you're not sure how to use the interface? Or that you're sticking with a USB because you don't know how to use the interface? I didn't know how to use the interface and wasn't sure of it, so I got an XLR. Most of those interfaces are, once you start to get into purchasing hardware and equipment, it gets a little intimidating. But again, YouTube is a fabulous place to go for information on just about anything. But interfaces really aren't as scary as they look. Is really you plug in your mic and you plug in the other end to your computer, and that basically just converts the language into language your computer and your recording system can understand from the microphone. It's really not that scary, I promise you. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Let's see. JCCAOL says, Angela, your thoughts on portable booths? I have one since I live in a 1-bedroom apartment. I like it, but I still hear an echo. Should I move everything into my closet? It is small, but possible. Just for reference, the room that I am in is about a 5 by 6 storage closet. I would say it's probably a little bit bigger than a typical closet, but I would say move it to a closet if you can. Move your recording space or build your recording space in a space where your sound is going to be consistent. You don't want to keep having to move your equipment and your gear everywhere because your clients are going to count on you to have a consistent sound. So having a dedicated space where you can set up everything and not move it will help you tremendously. Portable booths are great if you're traveling or if you're just getting started and you're trying to sort of establish yourself. But I would say definitely at some point, try to make a dedicated space for your voiceover work because, again, it needs to sound consistent. And the scary part is once you have everything set up in your space, not to touch it. Don't touch anything because, of course, as you can imagine, with all of your presets and all of your effects in your DAW, they're all set to where everything is currently set up. So anytime you change anything in here, if you change your microphone, you change, the way, like the moving blankets or any of the acoustic foam that you have on the walls, any of that changes, then your sound is going to change. It's funny how much the mics actually pick up, but definitely get a dedicated space to record in if you can. Let's see. Storyteller Schlock says, I hope I'm saying that right. It looks like SHLOK. How can we get project on Fiverr as a newbie? My best advice for starting out on Fiverr, if you're brand new to Fiverr, because we all know we need that social proof, right? You need to get those reviews to be seen by more people, is the buyer's requests. You get 10 of those to submit every day. I would definitely recommend getting in there and submitting 10 of those every day. Even if the buyer is looking for, if you're a male, for example, and the buyer is looking for a female with a Hindi voiceover, I would still send them a bid and introduce yourself. Because if they're looking for voiceovers in one typical or one type of language, there's a good chance they might be looking for a voiceover in your language as well. So definitely introduce yourself. The seeds you plant today is the crop you can sow later, right? So that is definitely my best advice for that is the buyer's requests on Fiverr. Ma Candy VO says, oh gosh, that all sounds very ideal. I do watch a VO's journey as well. Yeah, Anthony is a great guy. If you guys haven't checked out a VO's journey on YouTube or his Facebook page, or I think he's on TikTok now too. He is amazing. He's such a nice guy, such a great guy. Very selfless, very giving. Disport Review says, oh, I mean acting. Sorry about that. That's okay. I think that was my fault. I just wanted to, because, there's a few different takeaways from that. I just wanted to make sure that I understood the question. But coaching on acting, yes, absolutely. We went over just about everything you can think of related to voiceover. So having a coach when you're ready is a great move to make. And for me, a lot of what I did was self-taught. I think about a year in, maybe a year and a half. Well, yeah, about a year in, I decided I was at that point. I started to plateau and I wasn't really gaining any more traction or clients, or I was kind of flattening out. So I reached out to Anthony and I said, hey, I need help. I need you. So I worked with him for about a year, and it was probably one of the best investments I made. Let's see. JCCAOL says, I watch a VO's journey. I enjoy him and Bill DeWeese. Yeah, Bill DeWeese is awesome. Thank you for reminding me. He is also a great, awesome guy. If you have not checked out his YouTube channel, I would definitely recommend that. Let's see here. Alyssa Bowen. Hey, Alyssa. As a complete newbie, how should I set up a profile on ACX? So far, I've auditioned for 4 books, and I'll be doing more. So far, I love doing this. I'm not sure how realistic it is to actually land a book. It is very realistic. I would definitely submit more than 4 books. Most of the people that I work with submit about 10 auditions to start, and that's usually within the first couple of days. And then they wait just to see what kind of responses they get. And I would say 7 times out of 10, they come back with at least one offer for a book. So, just like everything else in sales or business, it's a numbers game. The more auditions you submit, your better your chances are of landing a job. It's the same thing with audiobooks. But I would definitely make sure that you also have samples of yourself posted on ACX. And one of the problems I ran into when I was first starting on ACX is not having any content to narrate for ACX for your samples. So that's where you can go to sites like Gutenberg.org. That is a site that has books in the public domain. You could choose one of those and just, narrate a small section, format it for ACX, and, get used to the editing and formatting process, and then use that as a sample. And put as many different types of samples, meaning genres and tones and character types, that sort of thing, on ACX as possible, and then as often as possible, and you can refresh those as many times as you want. And I'm holding my coffee like I'm going to drink it. Because every new sample that you post on ACX is going to be right at the top of the search bar. So you want to be seen first, right? So I would say, every couple of days, refresh those samples or repost them, and make sure that, again, you have a nice variation of different types of genres and tones and stuff. So you have a wider net, basically. So if, an author's looking for a particular tone and they come across you, then there's a good chance that they'll listen to your sample and hopefully you'll land that job. I know that was a very, very long answer. I apologize. But it is very realistic. Absolutely. Ma Candy VO, I love that. As far as dedicated spaces to record, never underestimate a clothing-filled closet. Absolutely. Just come out for air occasionally. Yes, absolutely. There were at least 3 people that I can think of off the top of my head that I worked with that worked in a walk-in closet. And it is great because if you don't have anything on your walls to help with the reverb, any kind of reflection going on, the clothes in the closet will help to reduce that. It'll help absorb some of that reverberation and reduce the echo into your mic. So a clothes-filled closet is a great place to start, if you can keep all of your stuff in there and not, impede the use of the closet for getting clothes. But yeah, coming out for air occasionally is a good idea too. Storyteller Schlock says, I watched your video on ACX. It was very informative and helpful, but I can't find I can't find Hindi book there. I'm from India. Yeah, I can't tell you if I've ever seen a Hindi book in there. I have seen just about everything that you can think of being offered on Fiverr, though, however. I would definitely check out Fiverr and Upwork, maybe make some profiles there if you're looking for a specific type of audiobook. And you can make your profile, or your gig rather, you can make a gig for English voiceover, and then you can have a gig for Hindi voiceover. And that's probably a great place to start for you. But you're right. I don't think there are a whole lot of those on ACX. I haven't seen a whole lot of them. But you have other avenues for sure. Disport Review says, thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for watching and joining today. Junior 17. USB mics are just as good as XLR these days. You're right. They have been very good. I've seen some really great improvements in USB mic, and I think for a lot of people, it's just really ease of use. Some people are traveling quite a bit and want to take all of their VO gear with them. So USB mics would be ideal for that, for just plug and play ease. Although you can, with the use of a Zoom, like a handheld recorder, You can plug your XLR mic into that and use that to help record on the go as well. But USB mics have come quite a long way, for sure. Chetan Rathod. Sorry if I butchered that. Hello. Thanks for joining today. Alyssa says, sweet. Thank you. I'll for sure be doing lots more auditions. I just got the guts to audition yesterday. Well, good for you. I hope you celebrated that. Every small step. I say celebrate every small step, right? Thank you for the advice on the samples. You're so very welcome. I'm so glad to help. Oh man, my train just derailed. I was just going to say something else. Darn it. I don't remember what it was. It wasn't in regards to microphones. Something to do with one of the questions that was asked. Let me just skim back through here really quick. I just wanted to make sure that because my memory is just garbage these days. Let's see. Dedicated spaces. That wasn't it. I know I've talked quite a bit about Anthony Pica and a VO's journey, and he is absolutely a great place. He is where he is one of the first people that I started to watch when I got started. And then I joined up with he also has a group, the Elite, that, it used to be, before it became the Academy, we would meet up a couple times a week and just as in a group setting and talk about things. And then I hired him to coach me for a year. But his videos, if you haven't seen or watched any of his videos, I would definitely go and do that, because he goes over pretty much everything you could ever want to know about. And then he even goes over some of the acting itself, which I know I don't do a whole lot of on my channel. My channel is more for questions that I came across when I was just starting, things that I hadn't seen be addressed in other channels. And I wanted to give you my honest take and what I experienced and what I learned from some of the times where I fell on my face. So it's kind of where more of my channel comes from. But Anthony, if you haven't seen his site or his YouTube channel, go check it out. It's a VO's journey. He's fabulous. Brett Gray says, the struggle to pass the ACX submission guidelines is real for me. Yeah, I feel you. Any advice? I've recorded in-store VO promos for a local grocery store without a dedicated space yet. Well, good. That's awesome. Some of us can get away with not a dedicated space. But when I say dedicated space, I mean, if this local grocery store comes back to you for something else, is your voiceover going to sound the same as the previous order, right? Because again, if you think about it, clients want to come to you again and again and again. Well, you want them to come back to you again and again and again. And in that same point, they're going to want to rely on you to sound exactly the same each, order from order to order for, I've had clients for years now that count on me to sound the same because that's how they know that I sound, right? So that's what I mean when I say dedicated space, because you want some consistency in the work that you deliver to your clients because they're depending on you for that. But if you did some great work without a dedicated space, that's awesome. For the ACX submission guidelines, there is the ACX has their audio lab, which has been very, very helpful for some of the people that I work with in getting those requirements just right. And I think most of the time, the issues we come back with are the noise floor and RMS. And RMS is basically, it's short for root mean square. And it's basically just in layman's terms, the simplest way to explain it is basically the average of volume of your dialogue in that. So if you're looking at your waveform when you record something and there are a lot of peaks a lot of peaks in the modulation of your waveform, then reducing some of those peaks before you normalize to -3 dB, or even adding a little bit of compression in your effects rack might help to bring everything a little bit closer together, the peaks a little bit closer to the lows, and make it a little bit more uniform. So that might help with the RMS issue if that is the issue that you're having. And also the noise floor. I've seen a lot of people take a little section of room tone and make it silence and then use that in between sentences and paragraphs. I don't recommend using absolute silence because that throws off the whole algorithm for noise floor, because there is also a noise floor as you're talking, in the dialogue, and it's not going to match the silence that is there. Plus, typically, it's a stark contrast between slight ambient noise to absolute silence. It's a little bit jarring in some instances. So I would recommend making sure that your noise floor or the noise in your room is reduced in your during your effects rack application, using a plugin such as Waves NS1 in your effects rack to bring the ambient room noise down before you normalize and edit and all that stuff will help to bring that noise floor down just far enough. And then you can copy that room tone after the noise is reduced and then use that between your sentences or to cover your breaths or, at the head and the tail of the file. Having a noise floor that's just below or above, because it's a negative number, usually around negative, I would say try to get as close to -60 as you can without eclipsing it, because again, you don't want a stark contrast from silence to some room tone. And that's usually what throws off the checker, right? And keep in mind that checker, from my understanding and from what I'm hearing, is not 100% accurate. So I'm sure it's pretty close, but that is a great way to check your files before you submit auditions and things of that nature. Ma Candy VO says, how worried should I be about negative reviews on Fiverr as a beginner? Being new and not having gotten an order yet, I have a worry that I'll get off to a bad start and not be able to get momentum. That's a great question, and it's a question that is really, I think everybody has that same fear in the very beginning. I know I did. But all you can do is just do your best and, over-deliver, treat that client as if they are the only person in the world and do your absolute best. And sometimes for that very first review, you might have to do an extra revision. You might have to do, you know what I mean? You might have to put in a little extra effort to get that very first review. But I can tell you that with my being on Fiverr for about 3.5 years now, there are a very small percentage of people that never give 5 reviews or 5 stars, even if you did stellar service or gave them stellar service. But I wouldn't be so concerned about, I wouldn't let that hold you back. Let me just say that. I would not let that fear hold you back, because that fear in itself will just kill your confidence, and then you will never take that step forward. So take a deep breath. When you get that first order, just over-deliver and just put your customer service hat on and do your absolute best. But don't let that fear hold you back. Don't let your fear control your fate or your success, right? Just go out there and do it. Just do it, as I always say. I have faith in you. Let's see. Would a walk-in closed closet be a better choice than an untreated, unfinished basement to use as a VO space? With the closet, I will use the digital recorder Zoom. I have one of those too. Those are awesome. I actually have somebody that I worked with that used their unfinished basement for recording VO. And the only place that she put treatment was directly in front of her because she had a wall directly in front of her recording space, but it was very open behind her. And somehow she didn't have very much echo. I was very surprised. Um, but again, every space is different. The dimensions of your room the walls might just be close enough to give you, some reverberation, or they might be far enough away that it sounds very like airy. You just have to try it. I would just say, whatever you have in mind to use as your space, give it a test run. You might have to put up some soft surfaces, over like your walls or any kind of reflective surfaces that you have in front of you or to the sides to help reduce some of the reflection, to reduce echo. But I'd say just give it a try. Just see what it sounds like and see if it's something that's workable. For sure. But I know some people that actually do use their basement, so it's worth a shot, for sure. Disport Review says, have you worked with any agents, or what is your experience with professional demos? I have not reached out to any agents yet. I haven't had to need to. I don't have anything against having an agent. I know a lot of people that do. I would say it's kind of your prerogative to have one. Just know that, of course, they're going to take their cut. And, that's less money for you. But to be represented by a company and to have them seek jobs for you is never a bad thing. Never a bad thing at all. I do not have a professional demo. I have not taken that leap yet. I've been just fine with making my own for now because I think I've got enough competency in using my multi-track in Adobe Audition to create some decent sounding demos. Although I think I will pursue that in the near future for sure, because you don't know what you don't know, right? You don't know how much better a professional demo can sound than what you're trying to achieve on your own. So I think that might be something for me down the line, as well as seeking out an agent. I think I might reach out to a few agents in the near future as well. So I think those are both great things to look at some point in your career, for sure. Brett Gray says, yes, I'll pass one guideline and fail another. I think I need some more sound insulation. There's a living room closet with my name on it, I believe. It's worth a try, And that is the one thing that is so frustrating about trying to properly format for ACX and Audible is you work so hard to get one of the aspects down, and then you submit it, and then one of them is just completely blown out of the water. But if you have Adobe Audition, I have a few videos on my channel where I go over how to self-check some of these parameters and these requirements on your own, so you're not so reliant on Audiolab. And that way, you have the confidence that your file is perfect. It's formatted exactly how it's supposed to be. So, but I'm one of those people that likes to be very self-reliant. I don't want to have to count on other people or other applications, you know what I mean, to check my work when I can do it myself, because I want to know that what I'm doing is correct up front, right? Because I don't want to have to do any rework or, things of that nature, because, time is money in our business. But trying your living room closet wouldn't be a bad thing either. I'd say just test it, see what it sounds like. Ada Otigba. Sorry if I butchered that. Otigba. Ada Otigba. Hey, Angela. Please tell me if I'm butchering that. I want to get the ball rolling on Upwork. Having been on Fiverr for a year now, I'm a little skeptical. In your experience, how much voice work is there relative to Fiverr on Upwork? Upwork and Fiverr are very interesting in the fact that some people do very, very well on Upwork and then stink at Fiverr, and then vice versa. Some people do very, very well on Fiverr and then stink on Upwork. I wouldn't say that it's anything that they are doing wrong per se. I think it's more whatever you put more of your time and effort into is what is going to be better to serve you. Um, because they are formatted a little bit differently, and whichever one appeals to you more, I would say put more of your focus and time on that one. But definitely don't just put that one egg in your basket. Diversify and put your creator profile on a lot of different types of voiceover marketing websites, not just Fiverr and Upwork. I would go check out, some of the other ones as well. Voice123, voices.com. A lot of these places will allow you to put up a free profile. So I would definitely do that. But my personal experience, I would say I get a lot more business on Fiverr than I do on Upwork. Most of what I see on Upwork are audiobooks, and those are not super frequent, but every once in a while I'll get an audiobook on Upwork and some e-learning. So I would say mainly long form is what I get, but that's pretty much what my profile says is long form narration, e-learning, audiobooks, things of that nature. But I would not dismiss Upwork at all. If you have the time and the ability, I would definitely sign up for Upwork. It's definitely worth your time, for sure. Brett Gray says, I failed using ACX check on Audacity. That is the one that I hear most often that is not 100% accurate. I would check your work on the ACX's Audio Lab, although that one, from what I understand, is not 100% accurate either. However, it's a little bit more accurate than the checker in Audacity, from my understanding. I haven't personally used it, but just with speaking with the people that I work with and then checking their work, let's just say it's not 100% accurate 100% of the time. So check with ACX's Audio Lab in checking your files for formatting issues. That might give you a little bit better idea. John Steele says, Audacity has an ACX plugin that checks your file and will let you know if your audio file passes or fails ACX standards. Yeah, absolutely. And again, my understanding is that it's not 100% accurate, although it is a great place to start if you're trying to meet some of these requirements. But I would still double check with ACX's Audio Lab. Timothy Goodrich says, I had a 37-year radio and voiced thousands of spots. Cool. I just put up a Fiverr profile. Aside from sharing on Facebook and LinkedIn, what do you suggest I do to promote my fledgling VO business? Social media, for sure, is a great one. From where I can see things going, the world is starting to want and gravitate towards the short videos. I don't know if our attention spans are just getting shorter and shorter. I don't know what it is. But if you promote yourself without directly promoting yourself, that tends to be the formula that works for most of us. And with that, I mean YouTube, TikTok, Instagram stories, YouTube shorts, small little bite-sized videos of you doing something behind the scenes, something of you recording something, a tidbit of something that you're working on. Those are great ways to get more eyeballs than just about anything else right now, from what I can see. But particularly on Fiverr, again, if you go to the buyer's requests, you have 10 of those that you can submit every day. And that is the only way that is recommended for you to market yourself within Fiverr. For example, I've had some people reach out to me, other sellers on Fiverr reach out to me in my inbox and ask for work. That is frowned upon in Fiverr. That is spamming, and they will, if they find you doing it or if someone else reports you, then you run the risk of being blocked and or banned from Fiverr. So the only way to market yourself to other buyers on Fiverr is to do it through the buyer's requests. And again, if they're looking for someone that is speaking a different language than you or a different gender than you, still submit your request or your bid, because that way you're introducing yourself to this person. And you never know. If they're looking for voiceovers of a particular language and sex, there's a very good opportunity that they might be looking for more of different genders and languages, right? Why not give it a try? So buyer's requests are a great place to start. That's where I started. Most everybody else that I know on Fiverr has started with the buyer's requests. So that is a great way to market yourself. Also, social media is huge. Make a website. And with all of those little social media videos or whatever that you decide to do, make sure they all link back to your website and have it. And on the topic of websites, there's still a big debate on whether a single page website is great or if you should have multiple pages. I say do what makes you comfortable. Have a single page website if you want. Just make sure that you have a contact form on it, a little bit about you, and some way to listen to your voice, whether it's a SoundCloud link or an audio player, some way that someone can, when they visit your website, they can hear what you sound like and they can see your face and they learn a little bit about you, right? Or you can have multiple pages. And then on those additional pages, you can have more of an about me or maybe some audiobooks that you've recorded or some work that you've already done, some demos or a portfolio of work that you've done. So do what you're comfortable with. You know, there's no right or wrong way to do that. But the best way, I would say, for promoting your VO business would be social media, because that seems to be where all the eyeballs are right now. I mean, you could do all kinds of other things like sending out handwritten notes or cold calling or mass email marketing. You could do all of those things too. But I think when people go to social media, they're looking to be entertained. They're looking for information. They're looking for distraction from their emails, from their phone. They're looking for distraction of some sort. So be that distraction and get their attention with that, if that makes sense. That's how I see it anyway. Timothy, okay, career, yeah. Okay, JCCAOL. When you are in your closet, do you transfer your computer as well? I use a desktop, so it may be difficult to move all the equipment. I am thinking of various outlets for Wi-Fi. My room is a storage closet, and I also have a desktop PC. I have a Digital Storm custom build that is sitting outside of my door. And what I did is I had just bought like extra long cables for everything, extra long USB-Cs, HDMI, everything that I could need to have what I need in this room that makes no noise be in here with me with the noisy PC outside this room. So it can be done. It might take a little bit of ingenuity and a little bit of elbow grease and some extra long cords, but it can be done. But I started with a laptop in this room and it was just too noisy. And then I bought the Intel Nook, which is like a little mini desktop, little mini tower, thinking that it would be easily portable and easily, fit into this little closet that I have. But even though it was a small little fan and it didn't make a whole lot of noise, to be fair, it still made enough noise that the microphone picked it up. And with doing audiobooks, it affected my noise floor a little bit too much. And in trying to remove that noise, distorted my voice a bit too much. So for me, the best solution was to have everything noisy outside the room. So that's what I would recommend for you. That way you don't waste all that time trying to remove noise when, in essence, you should just move it out of the room or away from the microphone as much as possible from the start. But for Wi-Fi, that was another challenge because with all of think about doing live direction with your clients. You don't want to use like Wi-Fi because you're going to have spotty connection. And with working with professional audio or video or anything else that you need to stream consistently without interruption or breaks or static or any kind of distortion at all, hardwire your computer in. I have, again, an extra long cord for my internet router that's a story above my studio, and it runs, it's kind of an eyesore, but everybody deals with it because I say so. But it's an extra long cord that runs down the stairs that someday I should probably tuck in, but it runs down the stairs and plugs directly into my computer. So that way I have the best connection to internet. And so I don't recommend using Wi-Fi for voiceover. Not that it's horrible all the time, but every once in a while you might have something happen and you just want to eliminate all of your problems again up front if you can. Shannon Durant says, your advice is very helpful. Thank you. Just sharing what I have learned. And I would hate to see everybody else or anyone else go through any of the trial and error and just the frustration that I did. So I just want to help as much as I can. Disport Review says, that's an awesome answer. Thank you. Well, thank you for asking. Ma Candy VO says, okay, she's answering JCCAOL. I've been using an old laptop on a small side table with my mic boom hanging from the clothes bar. See, that's creativity. No one says that you can't get creative. Use your noggin. Make it work for you. But I had a laptop in here at one time too, and the fan, even though it was like way under the desk, the mic still picked it up enough that trying to remove it was distorting my voice too much. So I just moved everything out. Where am I? Okay, Sammy says, your ACX submission videos were hugely helpful. Thank you. Well, thank you for watching. I'm glad you found them helpful. I'm hoping to help, so I'm glad that you found them helpful. Let's see. JCCAOL says, Ma Candy VO, I do have an old laptop that I have been considering, and I'm also looking at various extension cords. You can still use that laptop, but I highly recommend moving it outside the room if you can with just extra long cords, because it really doesn't matter what you use in terms of computer, but if it makes any kind of noise, I recommend moving it as far away from your mic as possible, because, especially if you're doing audiobooks, because that noise floor. Let's see. Ma Candy VO is responding to JCCAOL. Even if it's an old laptop, as long as you can run your DAW, you should be able to. Even if the computer can't export or render the audio, you can always transfer it to your big boy computer. Yeah, you can. I'm always about eliminating multiple steps or redundant steps. If there is a way, if you prefer to use the computer instead of your laptop, then if you can, and again, depending on the space that you have, if you can dedicate a space and then move your computer somewhere close by, but away from the mic, preferably on the other side of a door, then do that if you can, instead of having to transfer from one place to another. But you can, absolutely. I've worked with a few people that do it that way, because that is the only way that they can get it to work for them. But try to eliminate as many steps that could potentially change the audio file in the process, compress it or anything of that nature, corrupt a piece of it. Not that happens a lot, and I know that doesn't happen a lot, but you want to eliminate any kind of issues. You wanted to be able to record, edit, send it off, right? Instead of having to transfer here and upload there and do that and do that. And then in regards to the computer type, I have found that anything, even with an 8 gigabyte RAM, you should be able to at least run your DAW. But if you start to advance in your voiceover career, and then you start to get into things like videos and other things that take a lot of memory, then I would recommend at least a 16 gig RAM computer, because multitasking is something that I do every darn day. And my Digital Storm has got 64 gigs of RAM, and like 18 cores, I think. So it definitely can handle the task. So, and I did that because I wanted to future-proof myself. If I was going to make an investment in a computer, I wanted it built my way and with what I needed it to do in the future, because I don't want to have to buy another one every year or every couple of years even. I want this guy to last me for a while. And it wasn't as expensive as you would think either, because it didn't come with, the whole computer package. It's just a PC tower. And I built it with a Thunderbolt 3 port, which you don't typically see in PCs. Not a USB-C, it's an actual Thunderbolt 3, because I figured, oh, my stomach's growling. I figured at some point I might want to upgrade my interface to something that runs on Thunderbolt 3. And actually, a lot of the interfaces are now going towards USB-C or Thunderbolt 3, so that is something else to consider when you're choosing a computer. I really need a drink of coffee. Okay. Ma Candy VO says, with an external or flash drive. Yeah, that's a good point too. It's really, really handy to have external drives when you're working with audio and visual work. Back everything up anyway. Timothy Goodrich says, thanks, Angela. Your videos have been extremely helpful. Well, good. I'm glad. Andy B. So, a short video on something that is not related is okay to use on a TikTok? Absolutely. Just to get eyes on you, I put scripts on my iPad. Absolutely. I don't know if you are on TikTok, but if you take a look at some of the voice actors, there's a lot of voice actors and audiobook narrators on TikTok. And I found a lot of them through TikTok. We're just one big VO family, and I love seeing these guys do what they do. But there's a lot of them will do, inspirational quotes. They'll check in. Here's the stupid thing that happened to me today, or they'll do one of those lip sync video things, and then they'll also incorporate some, live reads from their studio while they're recording an audiobook. But doing that puts you in different algorithms to different people looking for that kind of content. And some of those people are authors. Some of those people are business owners looking for voiceover. Why not, right? Express yourself and get creative and, mix it up a little bit with some fun videos of you doing something fun, and then throw in a little bit of a mix of you doing the work that you do, so they can see how you work and how you sound. Absolutely. Absolutely. Get on TikTok. Have fun with it. JCCAOL says, thank you both, Angela and Ma Candy VO, for your advice. Huge help. Well, good. Glad to help. Edwin00 says, hey, awesome, Angela. I like that. I'm going to use that now. What sound treatment techniques or blankets, etc.? Oh, and are you going to do a studio tour of your place in the future? I actually have a studio, I think it's called Studio Walkthrough. When was that? I think that was right after I got my new computer. It's nothing fancy. I'm just telling you right now, it's just a 5x6 room with a bunch of equipment shoved in it, basically. So if you want to see that, it's on my channel. I think it was maybe about a year ago, roughly. But I did do that. I could do an update, I suppose. I could. But sound treatment techniques. This room, when I first started out, was very echoey because it is such a small, tight room. The reverberation was real, right? Because I'm in here talking and the ceiling is about maybe 8-9 feet, roughly. But then the walls are, here's one and then here's one. I can touch them from where I'm sitting. And then, of course, the back wall is right here and the front wall is maybe about a foot in front of me. It's a small room, so the reverberation was a big deal. So what I did is, you can't really see any of it. I have acoustic foam on some of the walls and on the ceiling to get around the lights and the sprinkler and stuff. But then on the rest of the walls, it's just moving blankets. And I think I have a little bit of felt in some of the tighter spots that were kind of weird, like around the door and on the door itself, just to reduce the reverb in this room. So, I mean, who's to say you can't use a blanket that you're not using? Go to like the Goodwill, like a thrift store, get yourself an old blanket or towels or something that doesn't cost a whole lot of money that you can cut up and trim and, make a mess out of, and put that on your walls if you're having, reverberation issues. Or you can even find some of these moving blankets used. If you go to places like, Macari and what's that other one that you can buy used goods on? I'm not thinking of the name of it. OfferUp or Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. God, I was wrong in my mouth today. Get used moving blankets, blankets that people have used for moves, obviously, and they're done with them. And you can shake them out first and then hang them up on your walls. You could do that too. Andy B says, thank you for taking the fear and anxiety out of taking the first step. I am still apprehensive, however, and that's completely natural and normal, and we've all been there. But I say it with me, just do it. Just take that step and then celebrate every step that you take, because no matter how small the step is, it's a big accomplishment and it's a big step forward towards achieving something that you want. So take those little baby steps, but celebrate every single one of them. I have faith in you. I think we all do. Just go for it. Blue Sun Bebop. I'm just getting started in voiceover. Would you recommend starting with ACX, or would you say starting with Fiverr or Backstage is better? Again, it comes down to which you're more comfortable with. I started on ACX. Well, first let me back up and say I started first using or practicing, and I hate to say practicing, but getting the hang of narrating and editing and formatting with LibriVox.org. I've had someone say, I can't understand what you're saying. LibriVox. And I think I've mentioned this quite a few times in some of my other videos. But LibriVox.org is a site where you can go and donate your time and your skill in audiobook narration for books in the public domain. You can narrate a singular chapter or a section, like a third of a book, or an entire book. It's up to you how much you want to take on. But in doing that, I got used to, again, teaching myself how to narrate, where to take breaths, how to edit, how to format, without being or feeling, super self-conscious about charging somebody for this work that I wasn't really completely 100% comfortable doing yet. And once I get comfortable with that, then I started on ACX. And then after I got my first book on ACX, I moved to Fiverr and Upwork pretty much in the same month. And then I started to branch out. Once I got comfortable with Fiverr and Upwork, I branched out to Bodalgo, Voices.com, Voice123, Voquent, Voice Jungle, Voice Giant. I mean, there's literally like 100 different voiceover marketplaces you could go to, but Fiverr has been huge for me in my ability to go full time. I'll just say that. Fiverr has been huge. But any platform that you choose, whichever one you decide to put more of your time and focus and effort into, is probably going to be the one that pays off better for you, because the more time and effort of yourself that you put into anything is going to have, more of a return for you. So I would just look around at some of the websites that are out there and choose one that you think you would like to work on. Take a look at some of the other user profiles and see how they have them all laid out and what they say and their pricing structures, so you have a good idea of what to start with. But Fiverr has been great, and so is ACX. But I would say pick one and just put all of your effort into it, and then start to kind of branch out after that to others. Brett Gray says, yes, I agree with everyone else here. Thank you. Thanks for the thoughtful responses. I discovered your YouTube channel and your videos have been a big help. Well, good. I'm glad. I am so glad that you found me. Ma Candy VO says, "Oh yeah, that's actually much better advice." I'm guessing we were talking about the eliminating the steps in between computers, I think. Red Cabin Acoustic. There are great extensions to get your computer out of the booth with keyboard monitor and mouse both in the booth and at your editing station. Yeah, I think I have a wireless keyboard and mouse, and being that they're on Logitech, both of them are on one USB because they communicate with each other. You can pretty much link all of your Logitech stuff, the ones that are compatible anyway, to be used all on just one USB little nubbin because they're Bluetooth. So that, helps to reduce some of the some of the USB slots that are used up on your computer. I mean, just do a little research and find out what you need to make this work with everything you need inside your recording space. And if your recording space is also your editing station, take in consideration everything that you need in the room with you, and then look at the cords you need to move that PC tower or your laptop or whatever else has any kind of noise outside of your studio. It can be done. I've done it. And that's what I recommend to everybody, because always fan noise, is always the biggest complaint that I hear. 95 opinions. I'm using Adobe Audition. Yeah, I love Adobe Audition. I recommend it to anyone that wants to start voiceover or audiobook narration. It just seems to be, there are a ton of different DAWs out there, but in my experience, Adobe Audition is more voiceover friendly than some of the others, where some of the other DAWs are a little bit more geared toward music production instead of just dialogue or voiceover. And Adobe Audition, of course, works really well with Premiere Pro once you start to get into working with videos and things of that nature. And then if you start to create content, it links directly with After Effects, and then you can move After Effects components into your videos and, all that kind of stuff. So Adobe Audition is fabulous. I love it. Eric Pressman is here. Good morning, Eric. Kirk is also here. Hello, hello. It's a party. Andy B says, Goodwill, Salvation Army. Yep, absolutely. Edwin00. Nice. Thank you so much, Angela. And is it still a good time to get into Yeah, I would say so. Anytime's a good time to get started with anything. Don't let anybody tell you any different. There is a lot of people that got into VO, but as I always say, voiceover is a representation of the voices of the world, and not every voice is the same. So definitely get out there and represent, let's see. Edwin00 says, you rock and awesome. Thank you so much again. You're very welcome. Timothy Goodrich says, you mentioned the Waves NS1 plugin. Bill DeWeese mentioned it in one of his videos. Waves gives you a 7-day free trial, so I got it. Big difference. Really cut down on the slight reverb left in my room. Yeah, you'll find a lot of voiceover artists will recommend Waves NS1. I do. I would say that is hands down the best plugin that I have ever purchased. Period. Singular plugin, let me just say that, because the Isotope suite, the RX7, RX8, RX9, those have been amazing too. Especially the mouth declick in Isotope. Oh my God, has cut my editing in more than half. Instead of having to go through and healing brush all of those mouth clicks, the mouth declick in Isotope has been huge in cutting down my editing time. But the NS1 is one that I always recommend to anybody. Even if you don't have a whole lot of noise in your room, every recording space is going to be inherently noisy. Even just the ambient noise. If you leave your ambient noise in your audio track and then normalize it to -3 dB, that's going to increase your overall noise floor. So adding a light NS1 to just about every single voiceover that you record is going to help reduce that noise floor. And I don't quote me on how much it is right now, but the last time I saw it was on sale for $20, and that's a steal, for NS1. And Waves has sales all the time. They have BOGOs all the time. Buy two, get one free, or buy two, get the other one 50% off. I mean, they have sales going all the time. So definitely check out waves.com and look into NS1 noise reduction. Andy B says, I have Adobe Audition 1.5, 3.0, and CC 2002. Should I stick to the latest one? Also been told to read aloud to practice. Yes, absolutely. Read aloud to practice. Because if you get into audiobook narration or any kind of long form narration like e-learning or online tutorials or anything like that, you need to kind of train yourself to take shallow breaths or to find the correct spot in a sentence or paragraph to stop and take that big breath that you need. And that way you can successfully edit it out in editing later. You'll see what I mean when you get there, but reading aloud will help to also train yourself to project and to kind of use your diaphragm to project your voice. And the breathing was huge for me because, you can't just not breathe when you're narrating. So, but yeah, reading aloud is huge. And Adobe Audition, I would say that the Creative Cloud is constantly updated because it's like an online version of Adobe Audition. So it is constantly being updated with bug fixes and features and compatibility or patches and stuff like that. So if it were me, if you're asking my opinion, I have Adobe Audition CC 2022. I would say that would be the direction that I go, just because of the constant updates, and they add new features all the time. So, and I don't know how often that happens, or like how many updates you get with, the standardized versions. But it'd be interesting to know that. Because I've always had CC. I've always had Creative Cloud. I've always had the whole suite of Creative Cloud. So I couldn't tell you my point of reference with the other standardized versions, but CC, I would say, would be probably the way to go. All right. So I know there's like a 10-second delay or something, but does anybody else have any other questions? Oh, here's one. Blue Sun Bebop says, do you have any read aloud tips in your previous videos, or can you recommend a good video that can help with breathing and pauses? I have a few videos on my channel here about while I'm auditioning for audiobooks and ACX, and I think maybe a couple of others that I'm also doing long form narration. The whole breathing thing is really hard to explain because we're all different and we all have different lung capacities. Some of us have, asthma and stuff like that. So it's really hard to say. I would say find a comfortable spot to breathe. Don't hold your breath. But I guess what I meant by saying that is when there's a comma in a sentence, that would be a good time to take that shallow breath. Only, I'd say, because I'm trying to collect my thoughts here because my brain's going 50 directions. If you pause on a comma and take a shallow breath, that gives the impression of the comma that is in the manuscript and also gives you an opportunity to take that shallow breath. But if you come to a part in the sentence, either the period or depending on how long the sentences are, if you come to a spot where you can take a big breath and then edit it out cleanly in post or when you're editing, then that would be ideal. But getting to that point and realizing those appropriate places comes with practice. But that's kind of a general layout, I guess, of how I would say how and when to take a breath. So just doing some practice will help you realize what is going to work for you when you're narrating an audiobook, I guess. I hope that makes sense. Let's see. Yachinan Abiya. I'm so sorry if I butchered that. What is the best dynamic mic for noise reduction when reading for audiobooks? Well, I can tell you this guy is fabulous. Any kind of shotgun mic. If you're looking specifically for noise reduction, there are some mics that have a high pass filter or like a noise pad, but some of those are like uber expensive, and they come with like they'll reduce the sound going into the mic by 3 or 10 dB. But those mics are like you know uh, in the expensive range, even in for me. Not that this Sennheiser was at all any kind of, it was definitely investment, but the shotgun mic only focuses on what is directly in front of it. So if I move back here, you can't really hear me as well as you can right directly in front of it. So all the noise that's behind it, to the sides of it, is not going to be picked up nearly as much as what's directly in front of it. That was one of the reasons why I purchased this particular mic instead of like a Neumann or something else, is because, and I know some Neumanns have a high pass on them, but for the price point that I wanted to be in, this one was the best option for me because of the noise, just the ambient noise that is in and around this room. I thought the shotgun mic would be my best option, and so far, I have no complaints. It's been a great mic for me and my recording space. I'm trying to think of the name. There's one on my website, voiceoverangela.com. If you go to VO Gear, I want to say it's a Cinco, but I'm not 100% sure. But it's a replica, basically, of the Sennheiser 416, but at a fraction of the cost. And from what I understand, it sounds very, very, very close to the Sennheiser, and it's the same shape. It almost looks, exactly the same. And of course, it came out after I bought my Sennheiser. It's only been released for a few months, but that is definitely one to check out for sure. Thank you. You're welcome. Blue Sun Bebop. Perfect. Thank you for taking the time to help. I've been told I have choppy breathing. Keep up the great videos. Choppy breathing. I'm trying to picture what that sounds like. Well, not picture, you know what I mean. I'm trying to understand what that sounds like, choppy breathing. So I guess reading aloud for you would be good exercise in training all of the muscles in your chest, your diaphragm, your lungs to maybe hold more volume while you speak. I'm trying to think about how to fix choppy breathing. I guess, wow, practicing reading aloud again would probably be the best way to find out what works best for you, for sure. I'm sorry if you guys can hear my stomach growling. I need to go eat. Okay, Andy B says, I have an Electro Voice EV320 left when I planned an internet station. Is that an okay mic? Electro Voice. I want to say I know somebody else that used that mic. I don't think that would be bad at all. I would say use it and just see how it sounds. If it works for because we all know that different mics are better for different recording environments and voices. They bring out what is good in your voice, and not every mic works for every situation or person. So I would say try it and just see how it sounds. If you can get it to work for your space and it sounds good with your voice, then heck yeah, use it for sure. Mimi Delrame, do you have any tips for not knowing the correct pronunciation of a name or word? Yes. I would say if all else fails, ask the client. When I have, on all of my profiles, if you place the profiles where you can just place an order and move on, like Fiverr or Upwork, I have in my questions or my requirements for those orders If there's any uncommon words or hard to pronounce words or names, please give me like a phonetic pronunciation. Or some clients will even record themselves and send a short little audio clip of themselves saying difficult words. There are also times where you'll be asked to pronounce words from different countries. And so a short audio clip of hearing the word in that, pronounced correctly in the language definitely helps. But there's also there's also a site called Youglish, Youglish, and it is linked to YouTube. And if you put in a word into the search bar and then select the language you want to hear it in and then hit search, it'll take you directly to sometimes multiple YouTube videos, directly to the part of the video where they're saying that word. And that way you get an idea of how it should be pronounced, or, where the stresses are in the word, things of that nature. So that has been huge for me. Google, if you put the word in Google and ask them to translate it for you, or to pronounce it for you rather, it's not always 100% correct. So I think going to Youglish and hearing somebody say it helps, especially if there's multiple versions of it. It gives you a good idea of what it should sound like. But all else fails, ask the client to provide you a pronunciation of it, because ultimately they're going to be the ones to say yay or nay, right? Blue Sun Bebop says, I seem to try and put too many words in one breath. Oh my gosh, yes. I used to mix words together. Like my brain was going way too fast from my mouth, and I used to mash words together. So that has been something I had to definitely overcome. I had to really slow down and enunciate each word, and then unlearn that once I was not mashing words together anymore. And then to start not overly enunciating every word, if that makes sense. Because when you enunciate every single word, you end up sounding like a robot. So I totally understand what you're saying. You're going to have to consciously make yourself slow down when you read at a normal pace. And when there's a comma, use that as an indicator, or where there should be a comma in some cases, right? Take a shallow breath. I mean, there's nothing that you can't fix in terms of removing a breath in post, while you're editing. So just keep an eye on the commas and periods. And if you have to, if it's a really long sentence and there's a comma, take a shallow breath that gives the indication that there is, in fact, a pause there for the comma, right? And then when you get to the period at the end of the sentence, take a big breath and then cut it out in post if you don't want it to be there. That's what I would say. Ma Candy VO, Youglish. I've never heard of that. That's awesome. Yeah, I actually found Youglish from a voice actor on TikTok, because I'm on TikTok all the darn time. And I've found a lot of other voice actors and audiobook narrators on TikTok, and some of them offer some really great advice. So that is how I learned about Youglish, but check it out. It's really, really cool. Junior17 says, I'm sorry, but Fiverr is an Israeli website. Everybody has their opinion. I'm never going to turn anybody away from, making $1. I'm just not. But Timothy Goodrich says, the Heel Sound PR30 or PR40 are great dynamic mics, reasonably priced, and negative 40 dB rear rejection plus very little proximity effect. Wow. I'll have to check that one out. That sounds really cool. Blue Sun Bebop says, exactly. When I am at home with a script, I can read and sound very well, but when I get to the recording session, I lock up. Confidence building, I think. Yeah. There's something that happens when you hit the record button. It's like instant anxiety. I still struggle getting over that sometimes, so I completely understand. It's like a whole different world. It's like, they're listening to me. This has to be right. This has to be done right. What are they going to think? Are they going to hate it? Completely understand. But if it's just you and it's just practice, who cares? It's just you practicing. No one's going to hear it but you and whoever you choose to listen to it with you or to give you feedback on it. You know, it's just you. No anxiety there. All right. Well, what time is it? Oh, it's 11:20 for me. So we've been on for a little over an hour now. So we'll say this is last call for questions. I know, again, there's a little bit of a delay. There's a 10-second delay. But if anybody has any last questions, let's see. John Steele says, thank you for the Youglish tip. First I've heard of it. Yeah, I had never heard of it either until just recently. And I checked it out, of course, and it was really, really cool. It's already helped me